Social media. I'm sure many of you started thinking about your favorite apps, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, maybe even Tinder for some of you. The list goes on. Statistics states in 2019, it is estimated that there will be around 2.77 billion social media users around the globe. So let's face it, we all love social media. Now more than ever, we use social media as a form of entertainment. It is a big part of our lives, and ultimately, it is a doorway to other people's lives. So naturally, it's going to affect us both negatively and positively. Today, however, I'm going to talk about the negative aspect. It is my proposition that social media has disadvantages on society's mental well-being. And by well-being, I simply mean how somebody can adequately adapt to the highs and the lows of their everyday lives. Today, I'm going to argue that 1, social media negatively impacts self-esteem. 2, social media increases depression and loneliness. And 3, social media induces an addiction. So let's start with my first argument. Social media negatively impacts self-esteem. By show of hands, how many of you have an Instagram? Okay, so quite a few of you, if not maybe all of you. So as many of you know, or for those of you that don't, Instagram is a social media platform that mostly revolves around images. Alex Hearns, UK technology editor of Guardian, states, Instagram makes you worry that everyone is perfect except you. And it's true, we see this a lot on Instagram. A lot of people, a lot of different pages on Instagram, especially influencers, the people that influence others, they build this persona on Instagram of having the perfect life, when in reality we all know that's not true. But however, a lot of people still buy into this, and it's giving a rise to social comparison. So in the past, women, specifically women, encountered low self-esteem due to celebrities or models on magazines and TVs. Nowadays, it's the same. I mean, you can still do that with celebrities and models, still do that to us. However, it's not just them. Now it's your neighbor, your classmates, because we're constantly seeing them post everything on social media. Daniel Wagstaff and Mary Sherlock, both from the Department of Health Sciences and Psychology at Federation University of Australia, state, exposure to idealized images leads to a decrease in self-rated attractiveness, implying chronic exposure may impact physiological health. Whatever comparison people tend to make, they constantly pit themselves against other people. Social comparison is making us feel angry and unhappy, which leads to my second claim, how social media is increasing depression and loneliness. Katrina Harvey Jenner, senior health writer for Cosmopolitan, said, when you're relying on social media, it can increase insecurity issues and creates a sense of paranoia. It can increase depression and enable us to feel other people's lives are so much better than ours. So what about loneliness? I know a lot of people can argue it's kind of hard to believe social media can promote loneliness when in fact you can connect with millions of people. But it's because you can so easily connect, it leaves room for them to disconnect from the real world. Some might feel that social media is isolating them and they're lacking face-to-face relationships. LivePerson, an online marketing and web analytics company, has statistics. 69.4% of people would choose social media site messaging over face-to-face conversations. So for a couple of years, there has never really been a direct link between loneliness, depression, and social media until now. There actually is a study. Jigen Mercer, a journalist and digital media professional, states, a new study concludes that there in fact is a causal link between social media, depression, and loneliness. He goes on to quote, what we found overall is that if you use less social media, you are actually less depressed and less lonely, meaning that the decreased social media is what causes the quantitative shift in your well-being. Lastly, my third argument, social media induces an addiction. So the addiction typically starts with the term FOMO, fear of missing out on what others are enjoying. Many people are so caught up in the likes and the retweets. Katrina Harvey Jenner, senior health writer for Cosmopolitan, says, people are driven by the likes, even if that means these likes are coming from people they have never met in person. So I know a lot of people argue, well, what really is starting the addiction? And it's actually the reward cycle and the dopamine that is a huge role. So as I just recently learned, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that transmits signals to the brain, and it can make a person feel good. is associated with the feeling of euphoria, bliss, and motivation. And that's typically what happens. That's typically what happens when you keep getting these likes and these retweets. It's bringing you a bliss, and it's making you happy, knowing that all these people are paying attention to you. Carter and Harvey Jenner said, a recent study by association by Psychology Science confirmed the same circuits that are activated by eating chocolate and winning money are also switched on when we see large numbers of likes. So once again, it's the neurotransmitters and this rewarding cycle that is causing the social media addiction. So I hope you will agree with me that social media has disadvantages on society's mental well-being because, as discussed today, social media negatively impacts self-esteem, social media increases depression and loneliness, and social media induces an addiction. And before I wrap it up here, I just want to leave you guys all with a quote from Stephen Furtick, New York Times bestselling author. The reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reels. So, thank you.
Well, the presentation was really nice. I thought that you did a good job explaining everything as you went through. You looked at us for the most part when you were talking about things. Everything sounded like it was polished, and you knew how to, you knew what it was you were saying and understood those concepts. So that, I think, enhances your credibility quite a bit. There's a very clear statement of the purpose at the beginning of the speech. And there's an excellent preview. There's a little bit of background information to kind of talk about how people might see this. I think some issues about the controversy on this could be expanded on a little bit. Maybe some examples of problems that people have suffered or a particular case, for instance, would help make this a little bit more justifiable. But I thought that the start of the speech was really solid, and structural stuff was all fine. I mean, very clear labels, smooth transitions, and like I said, given the way that you presented and the evidence that you had, I thought you did a very solid job there. Maybe a couple of things that were not so much lacking but short in the presentation. Particular examples, there's some vague hypothetical examples that get referred to, and statistical information. There's only a little bit of information at the beginning about the frequency with which social media is used. Outside of that, it's really very dependent on testimony, and you've got good authorities and usually qualify those authorities, so that helps. I'm saying, well, let's back that up a little bit. Let's reinforce those arguments with some other information that gives us a diversity of support so that you have a sufficient argument to be convincing as well. So that's a moderate issue to worry about. It wasn't a big deal. Like I said, I thought that you did a very good job citing the sources there and giving clear explanations. So at the end, I kind of like the quote at the end that summarizes your argument very efficiently. So it's nice that you're not just having to finish with the purpose statement again, but you've got an illustration of that purpose statement with that quote. All right, thank you.